Hi everyone, welcome to a new season of Understories with me, your host, Lindsay Fowler. Season 2 continues with a conversation with Emanuele del Rosso, a communication specialist and an award-winning political cartoonist. He's currently head of communications with the European Press Prize and organizer of the European Cartoon Award, and has published his cartoons in several magazines and online newspapers. This was such a fun conversation. Ema is one of the most interesting, intelligent, and thoughtful people I'm lucky to know. He didn't always want to be a cartoonist, though. Let's just say he was looking for higher orders. In any case, this is a fun, meandering conversation that touches on work, life, politics, and so much more. Before we get started, if you like this podcast, please give us a rating or review wherever you're watching or listening to this. Tell a friend, and don't forget to subscribe so that you get notified about future episodes. They drop every other Tuesday. And now, over to Ema. Oh, well, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Understories with me. I'm your host, Lindsay Fowler. Today, I've got Emanuele del Rosso, who is a friend from Amsterdam, but I'm excited to have him on the podcast because he's an Italian communication specialist and an award-winning political cartoonist. He's currently the head of currently head of communications with the European Press Prize and an organizer of the European Cartoon Award. He's published cartoons in several magazines and online newspapers, and he's a great dude. So it's awesome to have you, Emma. It's lovely to have you. Thank you for coming.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for the invite, Lindsay. And I'm happy to see you again after this super hot summer.
I know, it's true. France. It's true. Well, we met up like in person. We were having hot chocolate in May or something because it was cold.
Oh yeah, it was also very very springy May in the Netherlands.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, we talked a little bit before we got started recording about what to talk about today, because I think, you're a very interesting character. You've done lots of different things. You have lots of different interests. But I think we should focus on the cartoons and stuff, because I think it's, first of all, I mean, obviously the world is very, what's the word? It's a lot to comment on at the moment with the world political
I had another
state.
word for that, but yeah.
What's your word for it?
Fucked. Yeah.
But I thought we could talk a bit about that and talk about your work and how you got to where you are today. So can you tell us a bit about you and your backstory?
Yeah. So yes, what the description you gave is correct. That's what I'm doing now. If I had to say how I got here, I don't think I would know. I mean, it was a series of choices, made along the years. And some love, because I moved to Amsterdam because of the woman that now is my wife. So I do feel like also that contributed into my choices also in terms of career. My background is in literature, actually. I wanted to be, when I was a kid, I wanted to be the Pope. I feel like I'm still working on it. Yeah.
I don't know. You're married now. I think that kind of ship has sailed.
Well, it's just because the new popes are like that. But before it was really not a big deal, So you never know. And also you got to be old, and I'm not old yet. So then there's time for that.
Yeah.
So after having decided that the Pope was not really what I wanted to do when I was a teenager, then I studied literature, and I decided that I wanted to be a professor. So then, long story short, economic crisis destroyed my career. I couldn't find a job. And then I had been working as a journalist for a bit. I was working for art galleries, actually. That's also another funny story, because I was working on a magazine in an art gallery. It was called My Gallery in Milan. And then I was also working as a waiter in the gallery for the openings of the different temporary exhibitions. I was making way more money as a waiter.
Oh no!
And because I was also a student, I was also like stealing the bottles. I was opening the bottles and then put them under the table. And then at the end of the evening, I would go to the manager and be like, "They made me open the bottle," and then he was like, "Yeah, I would take it at home," So so basically, I did work as a journalist for a long while, and then when I moved to the Netherlands to study in 2014. I started doing political cartoons, which was something that was my passion as a reader of political cartoons, or the New Yorker. So it's more like cultural cartoons, let's say.
Yeah.
So I started trying myself, and then over time.
How did you teach yourself? I mean, because you said you studied literature, you weren't classically, quote unquote, classically trained in cartoon or in illustration.
No, I have zero background. Well, I mean, I've seen my drawings when I was a kid, and they were
Mm.
far better than the drawings that I was making like until, I don't know, 2 years ago, something like that. So I do feel like I had something there, that was going on
Mm.
when I was a kid. And then, of course, um, during your teenage years, you just leave all these things behind and you just focus on binge drinking, and then going around with the scooter with my friends. So then I just started drawing, and at the beginning they were horrible, and people would just tell me that they were really good, and I was like, whoa, it's great. Everybody thinks that I'm great, and then I will continue to do it just because people think that I'm great and I'm having fun with it.
Yeah.
Then I had a friend that told me that my cartoons were horrible, and I just unfriended him, and that's it. So that's another true story. His name is Carlo, and I hate him. We haven't been in touch since. So it's 10 years now.
Yeah.
And basically, you just continue doing it, and then you find the cartoonist, the styles you like.
Mm.
And I upgraded, of course, my equipment. At the beginning, I have this like horrible tiny drawing tablet, and then I went up and up and up, and then you find your style. And it's a continuous process, though. I mean, of course, who did Art Academy has that as an advantage, but then political cartoons are way more a thing for ideas than something that is like just the style or the beauty of the cartoon. There are cartoonists that are just doing like stick figures for real. There's an Indian cartoonist that does that, and they have millions of followers, and they are very relevant for in terms of political and cultural messages.
Because I mean, I think we've all seen political cartoons in New York or wherever you see them in the newspaper and print, and sometimes you see them and you're like, I don't get this. I feel really a bit dumb. Like I'm not sure I miss it. So it must be really a challenge to. I mean, it could just be me for the record, but it's a real challenge to communicate a really clear idea and opinion in a single cell effectively, right? And like in a single drawing. Do you workshop like the ideas and trying to? It must be just a process of distillation constantly.
Yeah, it's a process of simplification,
Mm.
and it's usually depends on the cartoonist. But what I do is a single panel, and it's usually a visual metaphor.
Okay.
So you try and find the most effective image with the least amount of text, because then you want to also have an international audience, so then they need to be able to read the cartoon without actually having to read anything in any language as much as possible, let's say.
Mm.
And so that's that. And then you try and find something that represents your opinion about it, because of course you want to say your take on a subject, because it is a editorial in any case.
Yeah.
So there's gonna be people that don't agree, of course.
Yeah.
And that's about it. You just do that. And I do feel like some people, maybe I am one of those that have some talent for this type of storytelling with one single image. And sometimes it doesn't work, and sometimes I go to my wife and I show her the cartoon and she's like, I don't get it, and I'm like, well, and
do you unfriend her as well?
yeah I will. How many times I said I will never show you anything again, anymore. I don't want to. And then in the end, she's mostly right when it happens. So if you don't get it, it's always the fault of the cartoonist. I mean, not always, but most of the times it's the fault of the cartoonist.
It's a really interesting point, that, because I mean, as you say, you're trying to use visual metaphor to explain things, explain an opinion, but also really clearly. So that it's like I think that's a really special skill set, because I don't think it's a natural. I don't know. I mean, you like you're creating an entire narrative within a single in a single cell. And I don't know. I just find it amazing that I'd like to have an opinion that's so sharp and so like to the point, but just done with like a single picture.
I mean, I think it's an exercise that because we also do workshops with kids. I have friends that are cartoonists in the Netherlands and do workshop with kids.
Yeah.
I do think it's just really like a free association of things, Like, I don't know, you have like, I have seen a cartoon about, since you're American, you're American, right? Or you're Canadian?
I am American, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're American. So
not Canadian.
Okay. So I've seen a cartoon by Chapat, which is a cartoonist from who is a cartoonist from Switzerland, and so there is a running track, like the like the running track, right? The
Yeah,
sports,
yeah,
so
yeah.
athletics, and then in the running tracks there are Biden and Donald Trump, and then there is Biden that is running with one of those like old people strollers, and then Donald Trump instead is running with a massive convicted felon ball, like
Yeah,
so. So it's like using known objects and known situations,
yeah,
but with a twist, And I don't
yeah,
know. This morning I made a cartoon about Macron in France, and then he's like painting the government. Like he's a painter, he's painting the government, and he's looking at himself in the mirror. So it looks like he's making a self-portrait, but then the
yeah,
painting is just a shitty jumble of lines, and there is a stick figure with a crown on top, and it says "moi." So it's like says me on top.
yeah,
So you just try and simplify the idea of like Macron only cares about himself, so and then work on it. So yeah, I mean, I think with exercise you get better, but it is something that we have. If you know what a metaphor is, or if you use it, then can be a cartoon. You just have to put a politician in it, and that's it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, as we were saying before, it's like there's a lot going on in the world right now. I mean, how do you choose the subjects that I remember? I think it was particularly like when the war in Israel started. I remember seeing some of your stuff and being like, and I think the thing that I mean, this is my own like narrative stuff, but it's like, I mean, having that sort of really clear opinion about something, being so like pointed in it is to me is like really something. Like I'm always amazed when people can be just so forthright in what they believe about something. But I mean, I agreed with you, and I was just like, but to me that felt so scary to put that out because you're just going to get hate for that, right? Because it's like this thing that we can't talk about. How do you manage that?
I mean, for the part of the selection of the topic, I think
Yeah.
what one of my good friends and cartoonist Chad Royas says is, what makes you angry, then it can be a good
Mm,
cartoon, because then you're
mm,
motivated as well. You have a strong opinion about it. It
yeah.
doesn't always have to be like that, because I do cartoons on topics that I feel less strongly about it.
Mm.
And then in terms of putting out your opinion, I mean, all the cartoonists are very narcissistic. So I just want for people to see, what I'm thinking. And then you don't really think about it much. Like, yeah, I mean, I published also, I published on Charlie Hebdo. So that's the French magazine, the one that nobody likes.
Mm.
A cartoon about Iran against the mullahs, so the authoritarian religious figures that rule Iran.
Mm.
So they had a whole number about it, and then Iran threatened Charlie Hebdo in France, and then the police was here in Amsterdam at my place, just telling me, "Look, you should try and be aware of the risk." And
Jeez.
until that evening, I had no worry at all. Like I was really just doing. Yeah, you get hate online, and people
Yeah.
just call you names or threaten you of weird stuff. Um, but yeah, I mean, you just it's online, whatever, and it never got on me to a level that I could not bear, and I don't read the comments and I don't engage at all. So
Oh, right. Okay. So the whole, it's like because the thing is, I guess if you start engaging in the comments, then it becomes
no, yeah,
whataboutism, debate, and it just, and
takes
it's
all your
really,
energy. It's really unhealthy to do that.
yeah. So when did you get involved with the European Press Prize then?
Well, in 2020, well, we all know how 2020 started, So
Yeah.
then I was in between jobs actually, and I had quit my job. I was working at a startup, so it was a marketing job, and then after that, I was about to start with another startup in Amsterdam. But that second job that I was about to start didn't start because of the pandemic, and so I found
Mm.
myself with no job basically. So, but then I was told about the European Press Prize by a friend because I was involved in the European Cartoon Award instead, which is a
Yeah.
award for political cartoons that now I'm actually organizing. But before I was a judge. And then she told me, look, I know you are without a job, and we need a person for communication. And so I just started with freelancing. I also started freelancing ahead of time because I really didn't want to. But I had to just do something. So I started like that. And then slowly the thing grew, and then I stayed freelance, basically. So that's how it went. Yeah. So the pandemic, it really changed a lot of things because I had also a lot of months in which I was locked in the house, and there was like social media was used way more as well. And so my cartoons as well, about the pandemic and about other things, I had time to develop a specific style. So yeah, I mean, the first months it went like that.
Wow. It's quite something, isn't it? Like, I mean, especially I think not going from a sort of a classically trained route in terms of cartoon and illustration is, how long did it take you to develop your own style?
I mean, I don't know if I have my own style now. I hope so. But I changed like 4 or 5 times, and then you get to the nitty gritty of like what kind of. Now I use a iPad with Procreate, which is
Okay.
way better. But then you still have the burden of choice of like what brush to use. And like I spend hours just trying to tweak and see if that's the line is the natural. So I mean, it's a process, I would say that so if I started drawing cartoons with the intent of making cartoons in 2014, I would say 8 years. 8 years. And then 2 years ago, I changed again. And then now I'm still sticking to the same. So maybe that's.
Maybe it's just the next evolution on from.
Exactly. But now I do feel like it's something that I really have fun with. And before I was using a lot of like shapes, like how do you say, vector shapes or stuff that was a tiny bit more clean and designer. And now I'm doing just really hand like strong traits, and I just have fun because it's really way more easy. I also don't have all the time, I mean, it's just one of the jobs, so yeah.
Because I mean, we talked a little bit about this as well. It's like, you do probably 4 different things right now, is that right? You're like balancing
I'm
a
working
lot
on having 5, so, but yeah. No, yeah, I do, but it's, I mean, you're freelancing, so you just do what you need to do. But yeah, I do trainings as well on communication. So I'm trying to milk this communication part as much as possible.
Yeah, why not, right?
Yeah, indeed. And then, so I try to differentiate a bit and do things that I also like. I mean, I've done jobs that I didn't like, and I'm a bit done with that. If I can stay on the stuff that gets me motivated, is better.
Yeah. There is, I think you do hit a point in your career where you're like, I'm just not going to do this anymore because it's just not worth it.
Yeah. I think the next step is I'm not going to work anymore, and then I'm just quit. Yeah. If I could just do cartoons and communication for a better world, and I would just do that.
Wow. I mean, that sounds like a pretty, what's the word? I've just lost the word. I think I'm still in holiday mode. I think my brain is like in mush. It's really bad. No, I think it's admirable, I think, to kind of be that focused on what you want to do. So I think when we first met, because we have a mutual friend, Georgia Molinari, and when we first met, I think I knew you were running a design studio.
Yeah, I did have UX design jobs because I have a diploma in that.
Yeah.
And I've done some UX design. Again, it's one of those sounds of the pandemics, because during the pandemic I had time, so I also did a diploma in UX design, and I found it very motivating, to also just know about how to organize content on a page and things like that. But then it's something that I am not doing much anymore. Also because there's people that are actually talented, like Georgia, and I'm like, maybe that's better if they do that instead of me,
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think it's good to have that knowledge, though, right? It's going to inform everything else, right? Of course. So I mean, so you said that the 2008 was obviously a difficult year for a lot of people. You graduated, you did your degree, and then you've kind of been moving between different roles. I think you could kind of say I feel like it's almost like an oscillation of roles that that as the sort of your career has gone on. I mean, what for you has been the most surprising thing going through this process of working for yourself for this many years? And what are kind of the things? Yeah, what's been the most surprising for you in that?
I think so. Positively surprising.
Or
Because
negative?
then I want to also go to the negatively surprising. Today I've got a list. No, so on the positive side, well, you also know yourself. I mean, you also have
Yeah.
the same kind of profile on this regard. I feel, but like
Yeah.
it's just the fact that you really, it's like I'm thinking about like a sport or like I don't know. It's the more you give and the more you get, So then you pedal faster and then you just go faster. So you can clearly see that,
Yeah.
But then if we want to stay in the bicycle metaphor, then you also kind of have tourists crossing. I don't know, like just a lot of stuff that because you're actually pedaling your own bike, then you need to take care of yourself, So I find it very, very nice that I could see that when you have good ideas and you have the luck or the sense for finding good people to actually talk about these things, you can give and take, and then you have a good network of people. And I feel like people appreciate me more in my freelance roles than in my non-freelance roles because I do like a shark. That's the shark. That's the metaphor, the shark. So it's like you move and then the water passes through your
gills.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
But then if you stop moving, you're just gonna, like roll over and die. So that kind of feels like that, and then you need to keep moving. And then you're gonna have like people around you that are gonna also work with you on things. But then of course it's the moment you don't have enough energy or the moment you actually kind of are not in a good moment for doing these things, then instead it's again on you, so
yeah it's true.
Yeah,
It's true. I think like I like the shark metaphor. I use that a lot actually when it comes to business. I think I always talk about how you need to be going somewhere. Like this whole idea of like treading water it's all right for some people. They're kind of comfortable with that. But I think, well, I mean, one of my core values is growth. Like I always want to be growing. I want to be developing and learning. And I think that to be moving forward constantly feels like the right way. But there is something about that is exhausting all the time, right? Because sometimes there's that ability to just wanting to like stop, right, and not feel like you're constantly like. I mean, I think I've definitely felt that this year. Like this year feels like it's been a really hard year, and I think that part of it is because I feel like I've been in sort of forward trajectory for like such a long time that I just feel like I don't know. Like I feel like I need to be rooted again, and actually want to be able to stand still.
Yeah, I do have the same. I also do think that like I would change the metaphor of growth or like the idea of growth into idea of evolution.
Yeah, that's a good
because
way.
I do think that growth is a stressful word to use, and it also doesn't have to be. I mean, if we all grow, there's not gonna be space, That's the thing. So it's
true.
more like about the fact that you don't want to be looking the same all the time.
Yeah.
But it's not about occupying more space, and to some extent, it's not about making more money. Although, of course, if you don't, then over time you are kind of like pushed out because of the inflation. So but there is something nice in moving and in evolving.
I think that's a really good way. Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt. I agree. I think that's a really good way of parsing it out, actually, because I think growth is. You're right. Growth, by necessity, it requires elements of stress to get it to go to the next stage, right? But if you think about evolution, it's a bit more of a natural process.
Exactly, and also I do feel like because to grow, you've got to also use more, and then you need to like you use more energy, and you also need to like kind of I don't know, like it just for me it feels like for a company or for a freelance as an individual, you want to look always different, or you want to look continuously a different version of yourself, at least to some extent, and you're still going to be interesting for clients or for whoever, or for yourself as well. but that doesn't mean that you need to be a size bigger or smaller, like you could just evolve and that's it. Then if the evolution brings you to then decide I open a company, and stuff like that, then of course it's a good thing if you want it. And then there's of course the idea of money and so on. I mean, we cannot like fool ourselves. That's not good to make more money. But the thing is, it's just really, I work for a startup and it was really stressful to think everything in terms of like, we need to scale up. Now we're 15, we need to be 45, and then we need to be 70, And I'm like, yeah, but my salary stays the same. So you're just like multiplying the people. But I mean, then I'm still me in here and I'm just like a smaller part of a thing. And it's just not. So yeah, I don't know. That's one beautiful thing about freelancing, maybe, especially if you freelance alone. Then you can have different jobs, and then with clients you can also think about different versions of yourself you want to present to them. And to some extent it's the same thing with the cartoons. If we're talking about growth, I'm working on an A4 sheet, so that's not going to be bigger than that, and that's the size that I chose for my cartoons. Now we're going like poetic, but like, it's like that. It's like you have you also have your boundaries, and then you look different within the boundaries. That's also a skill, instead of just looking like A3 or A1 or A0.
Yeah. Well, it's that thing about constraints creates more creativity, doesn't it? Like having that. You're right. It's like, because if growth doesn't have a ceiling, then it doesn't push. You don't have anything to push back against. So you only work on a sheet of A4 then? That must be a challenge.
I do. It's sometimes the version is a tiny bit smaller than that, because Le Monde, when they publish and they require the cartoons, they want another format which is even narrower, so it's just like a tiny bit thinner, and then so you need to fit everything in, and it just needs to stay within those limits, but I mean, without, it would be impossible. If you had all the choice in the world, then it's just
Oh, it's terrifying, isn't it? Because then you don't even know where to start. Like, Well, what were some of the negative surprises then? I'm interested in this side of it.
I think the one is I've always found in the jobs I had somebody that I would consider more talented than me, or just better than me in one aspect that I wanted to improve. And then when you're working alone, it's really difficult. Because then if you have if you make one mistake continuously and nobody points it out, and maybe you are losing clients, or then it's difficult to improve. So that's one thing. So solitude sometimes doesn't give you a point of reference, and then you don't have like mentors, or things like that. So that's one thing for sure. And then I also do get energy from people. And so working alone, sometimes it's hard, because you would actually want to have people around you, because they can also, you share ideas. I really work a lot with these things, like new ideas, or like conversations that give me energy and so on. And then when you're alone, it can not happen for a long while. And I mean, I started doing during COVID. So then for many months, it was just me and my wife, which is like super talented and super patient, and then I mean, she just had to deal with me pitching things and having ideas and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm with you on the solitude side of things. It is really hard. I think it's a really interesting point you make about you might be doing something that you don't realize might be problematic or wrong or just inefficient, and there's no one there to point it out to you. And I mean, I guess you could go. You could ask clients for feedback, but how would they know if that's the right? That's
the thing. Yeah. It's difficult. It's really difficult. And I don't think there's a way out which is just trying to find a network of people.
Yeah.
And then trying to discuss these things with them. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know if freelancing is the thing that I would want to do forever. But then you get used to a certain amount of freedom, and then when you have to deal with people telling you what to do, it's a problem on that side instead.
Yeah,
So
I often
yeah.
said to people since I started my business that I couldn't go back and work in a company. Like I'm definitely ruined. I'm ruined in that sense because as you know, it's like that freedom to just be like, oh, like you and I, like, oh, let's go meet for a coffee at 4 o'clock because we
Yeah,
can.
for sure.
That freedom to be like to kind of have your own autonomy. I mean, I've heard about people doing this in a like hybrid businesses are coming up, and there people are starting to do kind of allowing a bit more freedom for their employees and stuff. But I kind of go back to this mindset around like maybe we're still just really skewed about the number of hours that we should be working, right? Maybe, this whole 8 hours a day thing or 6 hours a day thing, like, yeah, you can use it to quantify metrics for charging and things like that. But like, can we actually work for 6 hours? I mean, I don't think I can. I need to like
Of
do
course
something
not.
else. Right. So, this maybe the freelance model, there's something to, like the business world or the more kind of permanent staff world, however you want to put it, could take from it and actually like I don't know that because people all just want to they want that flexibility. That's what the pandemic told everyone, right? That go
I
back to
mean,
work and yeah,
I think you can do in 4 hours per day the amount of work you do in eight. I
totally.
mean, and that doesn't mean that need to be 4 hours. Maybe it's six or whatever. But
Mm.
it's the eight. And now I have no clue why the 8 hours per day system was set up. So I don't
Oh,
know why they
it's
thought
from
about
Henry
it.
Ford. It's like the
Okay, so you
industrial
see,
age. Yeah, it's
like,
like
come on,
when people were
yeah.
resources, right? In that sense.
So, and I've been working for the public sector in Italy, and I
Mm.
was there for 8 hours, and I need to badge in and out. So that was exactly 8 hours, and I can tell you that I never worked 8 hours. Of course, you have
Yeah.
like endless coffee breaks and then whatnot, and then in the end, you still work probably productive 4 hours. And I'm exaggerating because I do think that
Yeah.
productivity is also another thing that. Now we had meetings that were lasting like 2 hours, and I'm like, I don't know. It was just what it was, and I do feel like there's a lot of peer pressure, and then
Mm.
I don't know. I don't have a solution for that. If it was for me, I would work, even less than I'm working now, and I'm working a lot because I have different jobs, but you don't. I do feel like the type of idea that we have about how the work is distributed during the day is very outdated as well. And
Mm.
then every time if you put something into the equation like a sun or a disease, a malady or something, then I don't know, like how do you do that? Then you need to ask for permission not to work 8 hours because you need to be assisting somebody you care for. I'm like, this is just totally ridiculous. But I
Yeah.
mean, that's what it is, and that's also because of fundamental distrust between people. You need to know that you're there for 8 hours, and then if you work for 4, well, whatever. You just gotta be there anyway.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I don't know if I'm well, I definitely know that it's not caught up right with the modern world, right? This sort of like this way that we all work, especially since the pandemic happened. There are benefits, as you're saying. It's like there's benefits to being in the office. It's like that talking to people, having that sort of sparring of ideas and that you can do in real life. And there is some theories that the hybrid thing will dissolve because it's either one or the other. Like you're either going to choose which you prefer to go,
Mhm.
but I mean, I don't know. I always feel like it's not to be so black and white. It can, you can have collaborations with people and get that kind of that human interaction and stuff and still work for yourself and things like that. But I don't know. I just wonder if like I kind of thought that when the pandemic happened that like the whole way of working would shift. Like people would think differently about how they would work and they would trust their people more, right? Because they would go to, they realized that people were at home, expected to work quote unquote 8 hours a day. And they were getting loads of stuff done because they weren't having the endless coffee breaks and they weren't doing all these different things. And then they would be stuck like overproducing and then be exhausted. So I thought maybe people would be like, oh, actually we can get the same amount of work done in
Mhm.
fewer hours and then we can give our people more trust. But maybe that was really
I
it was
mean,
really
there's
hopeful of
also
me, I think.
we are still in the lucky side of things because you do
Mm.
have Amazon warehouses people that are working
Yeah,
endless
of course.
shifts there, and
Yeah.
so we are still talking from a point of view of everything went remote, but actually while we were at home ordering stuff, that
that's a good
all that
point.
stuff,
Yeah.
and all those people went even more into factories, and they spent a lot of their time infecting each other, getting sick, and getting like in the US, also the working conditions in those warehouses as well are like abysmal. So then, I feel like. But then we are entering a completely different discussion, which is the middle class, the I don't know how to call it, like the remote workers, and then you have all the services industry instead, which is always instead on premise from the supermarket to the warehouses and so on, and then so that is also a total disconnect, So then how do we make so that those people work less? Because we have the luck of not having to do that. Of course, working freelance comes with pluses and minuses, but I cannot see the pluses in working in an Amazon warehouse 12 hours a day, with noise and listen, and so that's a completely different world.
Yeah.
So,
well, wasn't there a thing as well? No, what you did a cartoon about it? You should.
No, but I should.
Yeah, there you make a really excellent point. I think, we did see quite a lot of in the service industry, a lot of quitting in that, because people were like, I don't want to even do this anymore. This isn't worthwhile. There was a huge labor shortage, wasn't there, in terms of the hospitality industry?
Yeah.
But I think you're right in terms of the more industrial, or the kind of, I don't know what you'd call it, but people working in warehouses and things like that. I don't know. Like, I don't know. Maybe it always just comes down to, I don't know. It's really difficult. I'm thinking kind of, how do you, those jobs will always be paid at a certain level, right? So how do you get them to pay more?
You increase the minimum wage and then you decrease the amount of hours. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert on this thing. I just know that the working poor category, so the people that have multiple jobs and still cannot get to the end of the month, even if they work, is actually a category that's growing. Also in Italy, don't know about the Netherlands. Yeah. So you've got people that have like jobs that still are under the minimum wage, which, by the way, I think is not even set in Italy because they didn't agree with the European law about it.
God.
And so then you should probably solve that. And then if you ask me, I would just tax the shit out of rich people. But I would go full socialist, and then I would just tax them because they would still be rich. They would definitely still be rich.
That's the thing, isn't it? It's like, what is enough? Like how much money do they really need when they get to a certain
the whole this new category of the super rich is also quite relatively new. So this kind of amount of increase of capital also happened during the pandemic because of people like us as well ordering a lot of stuff, and then everything became like that, or everything became like Amazon basically exploded, and all the other services as well. So and I don't know, like streaming platforms because people were watching more. So all those things made them extra rich. And at that point, I would just get the upper layer of their capital and tax it 80%. And, and those money you can redistribute from below.
Yeah.
So you start from the lower class and then you go up. So that's the thing. The inflation adjustment is barely enough for all of us. If you are employed and they don't adjust for inflation, you fall short every month, and then slowly you're sliding downward towards being in the poor people group, and it's just it's just what the system is geared up to. And countries like the Netherlands are favoring rich people on that side, and they should just tax more. But now sliding towards we should do we should make an open letter to Geert Wilders and be tax the rich.
Tax the rich.
Yeah, Alexander Ocasio-Cortez dress, Yeah, which by the way was at the Met Gala, and it was all rich people. There's also.
I know. I was and also I found out that you have to pay a boatload to go. So I'm like,
my God, yeah, it's like $80,000.
yeah. I'm like, so who
Yeah,
paid for her to go? Is she
the Democratic Party? So that's
right?
the
Exactly. Yeah. Right.
taxpayers. Yeah, who
Yeah.
knows?
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
for
funny.
sure.
I went to a networking event a few months ago, a month or so ago, I guess it was, and in Eiburg, which for people who aren't from the Netherlands is slightly outside of Amsterdam, but it's basically part of Amsterdam. And I was talking to a Dutch guy there, and because I think when people hear my accent, they assume that I'm part of the expat class here, which is extremely wealthy, that gets a 30% tax ruling for free, all the benefits that you get for being that. And he was quite surprised when I told him I actually didn't like the 30% ruling, that I thought it was unfair. And actually it was put an extra burden on working class Dutch people to cover up the shortfall. And he was surprised because he thought that I would be like, oh no, it's fabulous. I get like, but I think he was saying, because we were talking about, I can't remember what we were talking about. It's not important, but it was more like, how do you make it fair so that people who are wealthy can feel comfortably wealthy, but also make it so that people are not living like this whole thing about 3 jobs. And I remember seeing something, I think it was in the last presidential election, not the one before. And I think that it was, who was the vice president with Trump? I can't remember his name. I'm just, my brain's just blank.
Before, you mean?
Yeah, with Trump before. It was, what's his name? The guy with the white hair.
Yeah, Pence.
Mike Pence, yeah. I think he brought someone on stage that was like, I really should have known that, but anyway, he brought someone on stage and he was talking about how this woman was like a pinnacle of working class values and everything. And he was talking about how her son was disabled and she was working 3 jobs in order to pay for his healthcare and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, are we all just not seeing the same thing? Like, why does she have to work 3 jobs to...
Indeed. That's not an example.
Yeah.
It's a problem needs to be solved instead,
yeah.
Yeah,
I know. I'm like, this isn't like something to be like happy about. Like, well done, lady. You're working 3 jobs and you're really tired.
Keep not having a life. Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
Well, we can set the world straight anytime. This is supposed to be a podcast about creative business, Like, we're supposed to be talking
I was
about...
like, you knew what you were doing when you invited me.
I know, we were going down a rabbit hole. It's all fine. So how do you, I mean, I often ask people, like, how do you balance the creative part with the business part? But, you're doing lots of different things, but fundamentally you are a creative person that's doing creative work. How do you balance that between the two of them, being freelancer, in that sense?
Well, I don't. Everything is fucked. No, I'm serious. So I just have like, I put some boundaries and then I just break them all, and then I draw cartoons well into other jobs. And then I don't know. I'm like, I later have been writing as well because there's some stuff moving in that direction. So and then I produced a podcast as well some time ago. So there was like, I don't know, evening writing, Sunday podcast editing, and then I mean, it's difficult. Yeah. It's difficult. And my days are just, I mean, I have one or two mailboxes and everything comes in, and then you just, I try to give myself rules. For example, I said, I failed all of it. I want to spoil the end of this story, but like, so I said, okay, I'm just listing the solutions that there could be to a problem like that. Like you have 5 at a time, maybe even 5 clients, let's say. So one is a job, the other is a client. So you get contacted, so you can get emails, WhatsApp messages, because there's no boundaries anymore, and people are like, one was even my friend, so just big mistake also.
Yeah.
So that, and then you get so you get emails, WhatsApp messages, phone calls, Slack as well from another organization. That's it. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna have one slot of half an hour or something like that to reply to all the emails every day. So no matter the job, before starting to work. So then you reply to the emails, but then on the day that you are working for, I don't know, the European Press Prize, you do not work for other jobs, but you do reply to the emails in the morning. Because then otherwise you're accumulating everything. Say that one job is on Friday, you only work on Friday for a job. It's impossible for them to wait 1 week. They're going to freak out and then they're going to call you, So,
yeah.
So you reply like that. but then of course you get a reply to the reply, you know, so that's impossible. So I tried to do that, and I mean, with some people it worked and with some others doesn't. Then I set up a WhatsApp. Sorry.
So I was going to say, but no, but one of the things I think you mentioned to me before was that, like, if you get commissioned to do a cartoon,
Yeah.
you're not going to just be like, oh no, sorry.
I know. Yeah, with the cartoons, it's a completely different thing. The cartoon is like this: you get an email. I got it on Saturday last week, and then it's one media outlet that says, "We need a cartoon by next Wednesday. Can you do that?"
Yeah.
And usually I say yes. Then you end up thinking about the sketches. I don't know, on the toilet or before going to bed, you know.
Yeah.
And then you deliver the sketches in the lunch break on Monday, and then you make the cartoon in the evening, and so on. And then it's ready by Wednesday. But their habit, this is their habit. Like, they always contact me really short notice. And this time I just said no. And it was a really interesting topic. And I was like, no, I cannot do that. I really cannot. You know, and so I'm sometimes when you have really good energy, you can take it. And when instead you don't have enough energy, and this is the case because I'm busy with other things as well, that's a no. If you say no too many times, they will not call you anymore.
That's what I was going to ask. You worry about that, because I think I hear this a lot from freelancers as well. It's like, if you say no or you have any sense of boundaries, you're really worried that the work's going to dry up.
Yeah, but so be it then. Because I've been doing crazy shifts and cartoons on any kind of surface, like on a train, on a plane. Like you end up, which is fun. But again, if you want it, if it instead becomes something that needs to stress you out like crazy. And I mean, political cartoons, you become a professional political cartoonist and you're still not making enough money. So it's really just not a profession that you can be like, I'm gonna break through. Yeah, maybe 1 out of 100 can make it. You're gonna break through, and then you're gonna have a job only with that, which, by the way, I don't even know if I would want, because that would be only one thing, and I have many other things that I like to do. But so the boundaries setting is difficult, and I tried many other things, you know, like WhatsApp business account. I don't know, like it's just difficult. I don't think it's possible, actually. So a lot of energy is used just to switch in between jobs when you shouldn't, and you feel guilty about it. And I don't know.
Yeah, that is true. I understand, because that is, you can't really ever get deep into anything because you're constantly getting. I mean, you could switch your email off for a few hours, but
I can do that when I do cartoons.
But
then that's gonna hit you in the face the moment you enter, you know, because it's gonna be like, and it's always the case. It's just not even something that I'm like, well, maybe today's gonna be not like that, you know. And then because I work part time for the European Press Prize, all the hours that I'm not working part time for them, I will still get all the emails anyway, you know?
Sure.
So, and then they don't understand that you're working 3 days a week. So, I don't know. I really stopped worrying about it. And there's always somebody that's not happy, and that's it. Let's hope that's the one that pays the least. So at least you feel as a client is not the big one.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, okay. So, you said earlier that you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to be freelancing for the rest of, my career or whatever. But what does success look like for you? I mean, what do you think? How do you think of success?
I think meeting my retirement halfway through, like, not at 67. So just meeting the retirement will be a success, because it means that you just survived. And then also that the retirement is early enough so you don't have to actually just, kind of crawl to it. So I think that would definitely be a success. But then in terms of like career realization, I have absolutely no clue. I think that's a good question. I want to be a cartoonist. I want to be a writer. I wanted to be the Pope, which I want to stress again. It's still on. And then, so I don't know. I mean, I do feel like the best situation would be having things that make you happy, that give you energy when you do them, and they pay you well, so you don't have to worry about starving. But I thought that I knew what I wanted to do, but then I am probably lucky that I can do a few things well enough for people to consider me for doing those, or like publishing here, publishing there, or doing other things. So now it's difficult for me to think I'm gonna drop everything. I'm gonna just do only this.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. And then I told you, I feel like I could drop the job in communications and go work in a bookshop just because I need some mental like rest. So if I could have one job that is making me happy because I am surrounded by books or stuff like that, and by people as well, and then have everything else as it is now, it would probably be nice. But yeah, I don't know. It's difficult.
I know it is. I think I told you, it's like I have this dream of like giving it all up and becoming a barista sometimes. I just like
Yeah,
want to go. Yeah, there's just something about having that headspace and the manualness of it, as
yeah,
opposed to
that's the
being,
thing.
like when you're a quote unquote knowledge economy worker.
Well, we can open a
Reality
bar.
is,
You
yeah,
enter the bar and then you do the books.
yeah,
That's it.
that's it. Well, also
That's
our
it.
Dutch would probably be really good by that point as well. We would get really good at it. Like,
Yeah, indeed. And then we opening it in Aalborg or something like that.
yeah, oh yeah, that'd be great.
And then listen to this. And then we call it the Pope Bar. And then I am the Pope.
And
So
you're
then,
the Pope.
yeah, that's
And
it.
then
So then,
you've done your marketing for us. Like,
and
no
that's
wonder
it.
you're good
Yeah.
at it. Yeah. Oh, well, this has been really lovely. I usually ask people to give me I have a few quick fire questions at the end. Kind of keep people on their toes. Let's see. What's your favorite word?
I can only think about Pope. Church.
Pope. Pope is my
Pope
favorite word.
church. No,
Church.
actually, my favorite word of the month is in Dutch, and it's potlood,
Hot load. Pencil.
which is also very relevant. I like the sound; it's just really full,
Yeah.
Potlood. I don't know.
There's some great Dutch words.
Yeah.
Like, I heard one. I was looking at what was like. I was trying to talk about my dog because I was taking him to the park, and he was really excited because he'd been on holiday and he hadn't been to the park, and so he like lost his mind for a cycle. And I was trying to look up how do you say he is excited in Dutch, and it is opgewond, which is if you think about
Okay.
the English derivative, like how you'd say it's like he's wound up. And I was like, oh, I love that. I'm like, oh.
There are some good words. Yeah.
There
I
are
was
some
telling
great
my
words.
wife that I like Dutch more than English. Actually, I feel so. Yeah.
Really?
I
I
like
think
it's way
yeah.
more full. The words are more. Yeah,
Yeah.
you feel it when you say that. Like also when you say prachtige. Like it's prachtig. Yeah, I don't know. It just follows them out more.
Yeah, it's
like
true.
it.
It's true. It's like it feels like you're really saying the word.
Yeah, exactly.
You're really giving it some. What's your favorite thing about your job? Your multiple jobs?
I think the satisfaction of creation.
Say more?
So, like you make a cartoon and you started from zero and you made something, and it's the same thing you get when you write an article or I don't know, you write any other thing, you write stories or whatever. So whatever, like the thing of creation really like makes me also proud of myself, and it's also something that allows you to use energy, so that then the difficult parts is when you're doing jobs that don't allow that, then you feel like you're kind of like like steam pots, and then you're just like building up pressure instead.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. This is a good question. I usually ask design clients this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. What's the most unusual source of inspiration you've ever had for a project?
That's difficult. It's difficult. Yeah, it's difficult to tell you on the spot because now I haven't had projects for a bit. But if we stay cartoon wise,
yeah,
things come into like while I'm half sleeping, so I have like all sort of images, and then the most stupid metaphors can be, like I don't know, I made a cartoon about Russia having more weapons than Europe, like producing more weapons than Europe, and then for some reason I was like I think I had read or saw something that was about chicken, or maybe I even ate chicken, and then there's this cartoon of this chicken that whose neck is being pulled, and then she's just like pooping out bullets, you know. So yeah, I don't know. You get weird. Yeah, but they are most of the times they come from random stuff during the day. Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, we'll end on the chicken pooping bullets, shall we?
Bullets. Yeah.
So if people want to find you, where do they find you? If they want to follow your cartoons, where is the best place to find you?
I think Instagram is probably and sadly the best place to see my cartoons. I only publish cartoons, so that's at Ema del Rosso. So inside Emanuele is Ema, EMA,
Yeah.
and then my surname Del Rosso. That will be definitely the place. And then I have a website, but Instagram is the place.
Okay, amazing. Well, Ema, as always, it's so nice to see you.
Yeah, for me too. And let's go for a real life drink instead.
Yes, we need to. We can talk after this, and we'll set up sometime.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for the invite. And you can cut out all the political part, and make it
we're keeping it.
A podcast that is like, people are like, what is this? Like, why is this now being an economics?
Political. No.
Yeah, from two people that don't know anything about it.
No, but this is why I like it, because people talk about what they're passionate about, and that's really what it's about. But anyway. All right. That's it for now. We'll say goodbye.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Thanks again to Emanuele for his time. I always love speaking to him, and I always walk away feeling much smarter for it. Once again, if you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe, share with a friend, all those sort of things, so you can be notified about new conversations. Episodes drop every other Tuesday. Until then, be well. Understories was produced by Cloudfields and Kieran Fowler. The music is by Avis, and the branding is by Joe Jones. See you in a couple weeks.